Any questions from the start from y'all?
I understand that we're going to be doing the electronic MARS for our medicine. Is that what we're learning today?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and then exactly, and then
and shift notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and then shift notes.
Electronic shift
correct.
Notes. Okay.
Yeah, and then Mandy sent me a kind of a job description, and y'all can kind of run us through, you know, if we're missing something other than what but besides the MARS and the shift report. So.
Has this been installed on our network yet? Is there an icon on? I didn't notice it, but that doesn't mean it's not there on the desktop.
Yeah, so it's not on your desktop. It's a web-based version, and so you do have access. You should have access to it. And Mandy and Laura, everybody's got everybody's login information to be able to access it. It's just a matter of when they hand over the keys to y'all to start working in it. So it's not. So yeah, we host it on our servers, and then but y'all should have access to it.
Okay.
So it's but I think maybe, and you know, Mandy will be able to tell you when, you know, the login information. It's basically your, you know, she'll give you the access so that y'all need. So all right. So we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and start with the MARS. So
yeah, I'm just gonna put on something real quick so that we can see an example. There we go.
So next week we're going to train your nurses, your nurse and your doctor on entering orders in Lightning Step. So they don't know that yet. So you can't really be passing out medication without the orders in the system. So I'm told that next week we'll be able to train the nurse and the doctor. So realistically, you know, once the doctor and the nurse start using the medication side, then you can start doing the MARS, right? So we need to get that done first before, you know, but at least this training's good for when the doctor and nurse start doing what they need to be doing in order for y'all to be doing what y'all need to be doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we won't be using it for the MAR until they start putting the orders in.
Correct.
There? Okay.
Yeah, just because there'll be nothing in it, but we'll show you kind of an example. So how many techs do you guys have?
4, and then one new hire starting next week, so 5 total. But some of the employees do crossover into tech work if necessary, like Cheryl, who's
okay.
Here. Yeah.
Great. All right, well, let's get started.
Go ahead.
When you guys log in, this is the screen you're going to see. So is this the first time that you guys have gotten a good look at kind of what the system looks like?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've never seen this before or anything about it.
Okay, great. That's awesome. That lets me know.
First impression?
Yeah. First impression?
Hopeful. We're hopeful.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to do a few things just on this screen to show you what it looks like when you come in. So when you log in, the first thing you want to do is look up at this top right-hand corner, because we've got 3 categories here. We've got announcements, notifications, and tasks. So an announcement, I don't have any announcements right now, but an announcement is generated usually by a team lead or someone in the organization. So I might have an announcement that says there's an all-staff fire drill at 3 p.m. today. I could have an announcement that says, please get your moldy junk out of the refrigerator. We're throwing everything away on Sunday, right? So think of it as an announcement is actually generated by a person. You know, red Corvette in the parking lot is parked in, you know, Mandy's spot. It will be towed immediately. All right, so that's an announcement. So, you know, I would click on that announcement. I can add an announcement. So I'm going to let go of that. A notification is different in that a notification is generated by the system. And so depending on what my role is, I'm going to get notified by things that the system wants me to know. So if I'm a counselor, I might have a notification that says, Sandy has been added to your caseload. So that would let me know I have a new client named Sandy and I need to probably check her out. So those are kind of notifications, and depending on your role depends on what the system wants to notify you of. So you also have tasks. And so for me, I've just logged on and it wants me to know that I have a missing signature. I need to put a signature on file because everything is signed electronically. And so I'm going to go to my user profile and add. So now with tasks, I could add tasks for myself here. So if I want to say, you know, get the oil on the van changed, maybe that's my job, right? I'm going to add that. I'm just going to add that for myself. If you're ahead, I might be able to I want to set a priority. There is also a way to set a task for someone else, but probably your techs aren't going to be doing that. So this is just kind of a to-do list for me to manage for myself. Okay. Now, if I'm ever in a page and I want to go back to the main page, this is a pretty important part of Lightning Step. You're going to try and avoid using your browser back button. Do you know what I mean by that? So if I want to go back, avoid coming up to your bar and going back here. The best thing to do is either look for something that says return, home, or you can always click on the lightning bolt in the top left corner.
You're going to record this if you want to.
Just remember that the lightning bolt takes you home.
Yeah, but that just helps me better.
All right, and so we saw that I had a task to put my missing signature on file. So if I click on my name here, now for me, I'm going to get a lot of stuff in this drop-down menu because I have access to things like configurations and administration. A tech will probably just see their profile, change password, and about. So I can open up my profile and I can see that I have a signature line. If I want to change that and make sure that my alphabet is on there, I can. And I can put a signature. So, and if I want to revise it, I can do that. Just use my mouse here and save that. Now with with tasks, you're going to notice that it's still there. They don't just automatically go away when you complete them. So I want to go through and say, you know what, I did that. So I'm going to click that off. All right. And so here in the middle, I'm looking at my census. If I have more than one location, pardon me, I can toggle locations. If I have more than one program, I can toggle through my programs. If I just want to see the census for one program, if I just want to see my residential client, I can do that. This is going to show me an expanded census. I don't know that a tech would ever need to see this, but if they ever need to see who the counselor is, who the referral source, diagnosis codes, payers, things like that, you can kind of toggle out to a big detailed census.
Is there a place where clients will have PHP level of care?
Yes. So everything that you see that's a drop-down menu, you will actually be able to customize. So you'll only see your programs listed here. And if your programs, you refer to them by their level of care. Oh yes, our detox, our residential, great. But frankly, you could refer to them as your morning IOP, your evening IOP, your PHP. You could call them blue group, red group, purple group. This is going to be something you have access to. We're going to set it up the way you'd like it set up, but you'll always be able to change what's in your drop-down menus.
Yeah, so you are, and yours is set up and has PHP. This is just a demo site, and so it's not your true site because this actually has a lot more information in it. So this is our demo site that we use to train, and so this one just doesn't happen to have PHP level of care in here. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. And so when I'm looking at my census here, you're going to notice that there's a red flag next to Frank Fox. Y'all see that red flag?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So if I click on that red flag, That's letting me know that there's something I really need to know about that client. And it almost always refers to a safety plan, suicidal ideation, suicide risk, because that's something as an RA I need to know immediately just by scanning my census. And so I can click on that and see that this particular client has a safety plan in place. So as I go about managing my population, that's something that is always going to be in the forefront of my mind, designated by this little red flag.
Okay, cool.
Now, if I needed more information about this person, I can go into their chart. And there's two ways for me to do that. The easiest way is maybe just to click on this little file folder here. And you're going to see everything on here, but a tech is going to be limited by the information they can see, depending on what you guys tell us. But this is where I could go in and look at maybe what medications they're taking. I can look at their contacts. So if I need to call, under Piper, I need to call Piper's mom. Piper's mom's information will be here. If I need to make sure that Piper has a consent on file, I can look here. And if I'm ever somewhere and I want to go, I can click here to go back to where Piper is. So I'm going to go to my lightning bolt to go back. So the second way to look at a client's chart is I can search for that client in the search bar. So there's Piper there. And I can click on her. Okay. Now you'll notice when I'm looking at a client's chart, there's going to be three ways to view that chart. The first is an inquiry profile. So this is all the information that we took from Piper before she admitted. It's all of the contact we had with Piper before she admitted. So these are things like what was the referral source and the demographics and the financial and the scheduling and all those types of things. As text, you don't really necessarily need to know that, but I want you to know what you're looking at, because if you ever open up a person and go, wait, where are the meds? Where are the meds? Well, just know you probably need to flip over down here to the client profile. And that's going to give me the information that I need about the client when they're actually in the program.
Okay.
So I'm going to go lightning bolt to take me home. So that's this information here. I do have a calendar that I can use. It is HIPAA compliant. It does not talk to your phone, so you can't necessarily have something that it won't interface with your Gmail, and that's for HIPAA reasons, but you can use that. Over here on the left, we've got three tabs: information, client care, and administration. As a tech, you're almost always going to be living in client care. The information is stuff like metrics, a CRM, admission stuff. Your administration, things like financial, invoice, configurations. So let's open up client care. Now, as techs, do you guys run groups, big book groups or anything like that?
Possibly, not currently, not now. Not right.
Okay, well, great. So probably at some point you might have a tech run a group, whether it's a nightly review group or something like that. So group notes are here.
We do.
The way this is, go ahead.
I'm sorry. We do. The morning tech and the swing shift tech does meditation and an MIR workbook, mindfulness and workbook with the clients. Okay.
Okay, great. So the way the system works is that when you can set up the different types of groups that your organization has, and then you give permissions. So for me, I'm going to click on group notes. I have permission to two different kinds of groups, the education group and the relapse prevention group. If I was a tech, I would see morning meditation on here, right?
Right.
And so I'm going to click on my new education group session. And typically when you do groups in treatment, there are really two types of notes you want. Some groups are the type of groups where you really want a detailed note about each person's participation. So Mandy shared about her parents' divorce, and Billy shared about how he really wants to use. Those are things where maybe it's a process group or some kind of participation group where you really want to know what did each client do in that group.
How is this different from our shift notes? Because right now when we handwrite our shift notes, that information is going into that. What will that change?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. A shift note is really going to be detailing anything that happens outside of a group or inside a group if it's something you want to let everybody know about.
Okay.
Think of it this way. When you get together to do your morning meeting, you're probably going to read the shift note from the shift before, correct?
We do it at shift change, yes.
And at shift change. Whereas your shift change, you're not going to go in and read every group note. The group note is really just about clinical documentation.
Okay.
For that person's chart, right? And so, so going back to groups, if you run a group where you say, I want to know how each individual person is participating. Well, then you're going to open up the group and you're going to see it. The date is going to automatically fill, start time will fill, duration will fill. But if for some reason I need to change that, I can. I'm the primary provider. Here's the topic. And I'm going to do an overall session. So for this session, clients discussed, or clients role played how they might interact with old using friends. So that's just kind of generally what they did with the whole group. But I'm going to go down here and I automatically have the 4 clients that were in that group because we set that up. And look up here where it says requirements. They want me to do an all group note, which I just did, a note about all the group, but they also want me to put in an individual note and reference a treatment objective. So referencing treatment objectives is something required by both the Joint Commission and CARF, which is good to get in the habit of doing, even if you're not accredited yet. So let's see, Piper was there, Frank was there, Harry was not there, but because he was maybe at the doctor. And Stella was not there because she refused to get out of bed. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. They're either in the group, and if they're not in the group, it's because they have a good reason or because it's not a good reason, basically. So I've got that. I've marked their stuff there. But then I want to go in here and create an individual note for each of these people. So you'll see the top here is already done. We did that. That autofills to every person. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to be able to see all of the treatment objectives from this person's treatment plan. I'm going to click add. And then I'm going to put an individual note about this person's. So I might say Piper role played running into her old boyfriend. I'm going to save that with a final save and hit save. So now you'll see that this note's done and I'll go to the next person.
Okay. So
now, chances are your text probably won't be doing groups where they fill in each individual person, but I'm showing you this so that you can understand the kind of note they will be doing. So let's pretend like we did all those.
We actually do write individual notes. We put the client's initial and then we state what they said or their behavior. So will this be where this goes?
So, yes. So for if it's a group, right? So if
right.
When they run meditation groups, you're saying, you know what? I want to know each individual client's participation, not just whether or not they participated or whether or not they were present. I want to know the content of what they talked about.
Okay.
Then they would fill out that for the group. However, not every group you're going to want that much. If it's just an education group or maybe a big book group, or yoga, like you don't really need to know how deep was Piper's downward dog during yoga.
Okay.
Right? How flexible was Cowboy during yoga today?
Stella Retriever has a great down.
Right. Like you, exactly. You don't necessarily need that much information. And it might be similar with a meditation group. You may decide, you know, we don't actually need to know the content of what everyone's meditating about today.
Okay.
And so in that case, you might set up your group notes to be like an education group. You'll notice this part looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just fill this out. So the education topic today was healthy eating. And then I'm just going to summarize the session. Client and facilitator explored how healthy eating can be a part of a recovery program clients were presented with information about the My Plate way of nutritious choices, whatever the case may be. But you don't really need to know that Piper likes corn and Billy said he really likes the My Plate, and right, you don't need all that. So if you'll notice, at this point, it's not requiring an individual group, and I'll be able to just save this up here. So there won't even be client information there. It'll just be this.
By doing this, it then will be JCO compliant?
Yes.
Okay.
Not every group has to detail every person's participation, and particularly if it's not a counseling group. So obviously process groups, relapse prevention groups, gender groups, small groups, those kind of things you'll want an individual participation note. And usually it's counselors doing those, and counselors are better at giving those individual notes anyways, because they're going to be talking about affect and mental status and content. Whereas a tech can really just say, hey, this was the content, and everybody got that same content. And then this note will go into everybody's file when I mark them as present.
Our goal is to have our therapists access our notes, because that's where the communication is slighted. So this will help.
Well, they will have access to all of the group notes. And notice here, it's asking me to put the all group note and participation. So okay. I'm just going to so I'm not going to say Molly really likes the My Plate and she seemed really peaceful about the nutrition choices, right? That's a little bit overboard.
Right.
But I do want to know, was Piper active? Was Stella, maybe she was inattentive? Maybe she was engaged, but she didn't really participate. She was pretty passive. And then if I had somebody that was absent, I would just put NA. Does that make sense? So all I'm asking my tech to do is just tell me they were there and what their participation was. And I think personally, that's probably an appropriate level of documentation to ask a tech to do. Doesn't take very long. So now I'm gonna save that, and I'm gonna go back to home. So those are really the two types of group notes that you can set up: a very, very individualized, detailed group note, or a basic group note that doesn't include individual information besides just participation. Any questions on group notes?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, so let me show you Shift Report next, since they have a little bit of overlap because both of them are just notating clients. So a Shift Report, a group note is just about what happened in that group, whereas a shift note is what happened over the whole shift. So I'm going to click on my Shift Report. I'm going to make sure that my location and my unit is correct. And then usually there's a place, oh yeah, I'm going to add my Shift Report. So here I am. So the date's there, the time is automatic. Make sure I have the right shift on here. So let's say I'm notating for the AM shift, the 7 to 3. And then I want to say who worked for the shift. So obviously I worked for the shift, but maybe there were 2 other staff members on. And I want to make sure it's noted that they were there too, right? Because how many times do you read a shift report and go, what do you mean this happened? Who was working that shift? Well, this is going to tell you.
Nice.
So you.
All right. So now we go down to room assignments.
Yeah.
Or administration.
Yeah.
So now I have a list of all my clients, and for convenience, they're clumped into rooms. And I've got 2 kinds of notes here. I have a sleep note and a unit note. If I was doing the overnight shift, then I would want to do a sleep note.
So those hours are not our hours, but we can change that, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, remember, anything in a drop down is going to be customized to you.
Thank you. That's right.
Not only that, but everything in a drop down, you will be able to change. So if 3 months from now you decide to change the times of your shift, you'll be able to go in and do that. You won't have to call and call us or pay us or wait for us to get back to you. You'll be able to change that yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And so maybe I want to do a sleep note here, and you can actually make it to do just an automatic sleep note that says, you know, no incidences, no incidences, no incidences. And maybe I go in and say, actually, for this client, awoke at 2 a.m. complaining of stomachache, right? I'll save that. Here we go. Nope, it won't do that. And so that's what that looks like. But let's say I'm not doing it, because if I'm doing an overnight shift, I really just need to do the sleep note. But if I'm doing a daytime shift, I want to use my unit note. Okay. Now, this is for individual clients. If I need something individually to go into their chart, down here, I can do a summary of shifts. So the difference is this. If I'm going to use a client identifying information, so if I'm going to say Nick Davis vomited 3 times during the shift, or if I'm going to say Juliet was confronted about not picking up her room and got very defensive, I want to make sure that that's a unit note, because that unit note will be only about Juliet and is going into Juliet's file. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Oh, disconnected.
Can y'all still see me?
Yeah, I don't know if it's frozen. Are you moving the mouse? Because it's not moving.
I am moving the mouse.
Okay.
My,
Yeah, it's disconnecting or.
Yeah, one of ours just disconnected, which is why I was asking.
huh.
Give me a second here. Oh yeah, mine's connecting too.
Yours disconnected?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Connect.
Let me log. I don't know if you have a remote access of this computer, but, or should log in. Do we need to do anything?
Yeah, just hang on 1 second. I think my Wi-Fi.
Well, I'll just keep sort of explaining what I was explaining. When you write a shift note, that doesn't get attached to a specific client's chart, because you never want something to go into a chart that's referencing other clients. That's a HIPAA thing. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yes.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
Sure. So in the shift note here, there's 2 types of ways you can talk about what happens on a shift.
We can't see your screen.
That's okay. We're fixing that right now. I'm just sort of talking.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's all right. So there's 2 types of ways to notate what happened in a shift. There are general things like the clients left for the meeting at 6:45. You know, conversation seemed healthy. The meeting ended at 8. Lunch went great. Or you might say, man, the rooms looked really bad today. Chores were not done up to standard. And, you know, we really need to work on this. You might say, there was some confusion about what time meds, right? All of these things are general things that involve either all or most of the population.
Okay.
But if I wanted to write a note about a specific client, so if I wanted to say Frank and Tim got into an argument, now I can write that in a general, in my sort of overview of what happened on the shift. But I probably also want to put a specific note in both Frank and Tim's chart, right? Like I want something in their chart that says they got in a fight today. And so we've designed the shift notes to where you can write a general narrative of what happened on the shift, and you can attach a specific note to a specific client.
We're almost back up. I had to reboot the Wi-Fi, so sorry about this.
Okay.
The delay.
So does that make sense?
So you said you can attach into like their specific folders a note,
Yes.
but in order for it to be HIPAA compliant, how does that work?
Good question.
So it's specifically designed so that if you click on a unit note button in the shift report, it will put it in that client's folder.
Okay.
if you just write it in the narrative, if you write in the narrative, Jim and Frank got in a fight today, that will not get attached to anyone's chart.
Okay.
And as long as you say Jim and Frank in your narrative, you're okay with HIPAA compliance because you're just using their first names. But you just wouldn't want to say Jim Smith and Frank Falk got into a fight, because now you have two different names in a HIPAA compliant document. Additionally, if you're putting a unit note, you're going to want to say Jim got in a fight with another client. And then in Frank's file, you want to say Frank got into a fight with a different client. You just never want to put both of their names into one chart.
Okay.
Does that seem totally confusing?
No, each client is specified to their own chart. We don't combine clients.
We're good.
Correct.
We're good.
We're on?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me if you guys can see me.
Hang on 1 second. Trust.
I see a cute little child.
Do we need to log in from our end as well?
On your screen, probably your background screen.
No, I'm not a child.
You see a child on the screen?
For the smoke detector, Okay.
We have a
Okay. Okay.
call that.
I think I need to get
You
that.
can go ahead though.
I'm trying. Hang on 1 second. It's for some reason the meeting has had an unexpected error. Huh. Why is it not? Error code 100. This is weird. Okay, can I email you a new meeting link real quick?
Yeah.
You're in? Okay, you're good. Oh, never mind. We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
We're not.
Yep. Can y'all see the screen?
No.
No, should I log back into Lightning Step because it's logged out?
Nope.
Nope, you're good.
You're all good. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. No.
Tell me when you can see the EMR.
Let me see. Okay, I see it. We see it.
We see it. Good job.
All right. So this is where we left off, right? We did who the staff is and all that kind of stuff. So down here is where I'll write my summary of the shift, right? So, the bus left at 8 a.m. for the meeting. Everyone was late to the morning meditation. Bill and Jim got into a fight, yada, 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 yada. Of all that information, I might say to myself, I really want it to be notated in Bill and Jim's chart that they got in a fight. So I can go up here, find Tim, add a note that says either general information, client stat, Tim got into an altercation, I can't spell, with another client, yada, 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 yada. And I'm going to save that so that it's in his, it won't do that, but
We'll get that. We'll have that fixed, but it will just,
that'll go into his personal chart.
that's our demo site. It's not always
Does that make sense?
working 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Let's say that,
The summary of shift, it's like, it says no individual client identifying information on
that is
that.
correct.
So, okay.
So, but you have to understand that that is HIPAA language.
Let's see.
So it doesn't mean that you don't know who the client is. It means you can't use identifying information. So you can say first name, but you can't say last name.
Okay, I'm sorry. We have a client that
Okay.
one of us is taking care of. But go ahead. Could you please repeat that, Cassie? I'm sorry.
Of course. So when you see the EMR say no individual client identifying information,
Uh-huh.
that refers to HIPAA identifying information. So you need to make sure that your staff knows the difference between what is considered identifying information and what isn't. Because you can say Bill, you can say Jim, you could say Bill in room 3, but you can't say Jim Elliott or
Right.
Bill Smith or Jim whose phone number is fill in the blank.
Okay.
So I can say Jim and Bill got into a fight I can say Piper expressed that she was thinking of hurting herself. I can say these things, but I don't want to put last names here.
Okay.
The bus left at 8 p.m. for the outside meeting. Let's say dinner was cold and dishes were not finished. So of all that information, what might you say to yourself, hey, I should also add that into the client specific chart?
Pipers.
For sure, that's a big one. So let's go up here and, we find Piper. Don't worry about that. Let's pretend it's Juliet. And I'm going to say this. Client status on Juliet. Juliet expressed to this writer that she was thinking of hurting herself. I'm going to save that. And then, do you think probably someone should follow up with Juliet?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's add a follow-up item.
That would actually be an immediate on call to whoever's on call if it's suicidality.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's going to be a lot of follow-up items. Let's say the follow-up item is just she needs a psychiatrist appointment.
Okay. Can I sit here? I can't.
I'm going to save that.
You can't see?
I can see now from here. I got to be really close.
Right? So now we've got a follow-up item down here. Let's say that something else that happened was that Bill told me he was out of his Abilify.
Okay.
Well, that's probably important. So I don't necessarily need to put a note in Bill's chart about being out of Abilify. That doesn't need to be in his chart, but somebody needs to follow up.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know I can't spell, so you have to forgive me on that one. Okay. So now I've got my summary of shift. I've completed my specific notes. I've got my follow-up items, and I'm going to save it.
So right now when we do our shift notes, we're handing off the paper to the next person and then placing it into a file. So with this, will all techs, no matter what shift they are on, because we have a appointed person for getting medication via fax to our doctor. So that person, if they're not on the next shift, will they always check to see if like the Abilify needs to be filled?
Not necessarily. Let me show you what happens after I save this.
Oh, okay.
So here are my shift reports down here. So there it is. So the next guy coming on needs to open it to read it.
Okay.
Right? If I'm the one coming on, I want to make sure that, okay, it's today's date. There's the AM. Let me open that up and read it. But up here, all of your follow-up items are going to be stacked up here.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So right
Okay.
now, this is what it looks like. What we're working on is getting almost like a tagging feature where you can assign that follow-up item to someone, and then it'll show up in their notification.
Awesome.
Okay, so the follow-up notes are going to stay there until someone marks it completed.
Okay.
So, and so I don't know what your process is for the shift notes. So I know almost every place you have the process by which the new tech coming on reads the last shift reports, and that's important.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's for free. This isn't really our job, but you got me, and I'm going to tell you anyways. Most treatment centers also have a daily morning meeting of that staff, and maybe it's just 15 minutes or whatever the case. It's always a good idea to open this up, and even if you don't read every shift report, you've got your follow-up items. So whoever's sort of opening the day in that opening meeting can go, all right, here's what needs to happen today. We need a psychiatrist appointment for Juliet. Who's going to do that? Bill's going to do that. We need that Abilify. Okay, the nurse is there. She's going to. So that is, in the interim, a great way of sort of making sure that at least there's one person responsible for every day looking at the follow-up items and assigning those tasks to someone.
Okay, so when we do our shift, shift check-in, it's at 9:15 a.m., also with Danco. And not all of us are actually in office to see the shift reports. Will we have access on our home phones, personal phones?
Yes. So remember, what system did y'all use before?
Paper.
Paper. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't take the paper home because of HIPAA. We left it here.
Sure. Good job.
So this will be available on our phones?
This is a website, guys.
Okay.
So we could go to the website on
You
our
can go to the website on any device that exists in the whole world.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So your iPad, your
Your phone, your
iPhone,
iPad, your
Samsung.
computer.
And then we'll log in onto the website, and then we'll log in our name and password, and then have access to the reports.
Yep.
Okay.
And you'll just make sure to log out when you're done.
It works best on Chrome, on Google Chrome.
Got it.
So it works best on that rather than Safari. Typically, people
Now,
on their iPhones use Internet Safari.
and the is it lightningstep.com?
No.
So your site is, and Mandy will provide that to you. I know here shortly, but it's MO. So instead of the EMR up top here, it's everything, but it's mo.lightningstep.com. So
MO. Okay, for Momenta.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just
Correct,
going to it right now just to see. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
and then Mandy will give you your login information, and that's going to be specific to y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to show you one place, but turn off your Remembery because this is not something you have to remember. I just want you to be aware. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Don't let this overwhelm you. The shift report settings, you guys can do this. So let's say that you don't want unit notes on there. Well, let's unclick that. Let's say that you want, you don't do rounds, so take off the rounds. Let's say that you want to see, you want to default for every sleep note. So let's make it the default uneventful. Client sleep was uneventful. So now you have a default note. If you want to show their drug of choice, you're going to have a way of sort of customizing what you want on that. All right, turn your Remembery back on. Let's go home.
All right, and then hang on. So show that, and then manage shifts real quick, so that way they can also the Remembery. So that way, that shows how they can.
Oh yeah.
If there's shifts, if they want to change their shift time, etc. That's where I believe that would be in manage shifts, right? Yeah. So right here. So this is where you can change the time change. Instead, if I want to do it from PM 4 to midnight, that's where I'd remove that one, and then I'd add a new one up top.
So
Okay.
let me show you this, and this is going to be something system-wide that just takes a second to get used to. Anytime you see this button, this is the subtraction sign. This means you can remove something.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Anytime you see an addition sign, that means you can add something. However, it's not a system where you add and then enter in, because see, now I just added something blank.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that off. Anytime you see the add, there is always a text box next to it. But the text box isn't underlined. So if you don't know that, you'll go, where am I supposed to put the shift name?
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to click there and put shift. Let's say we call it the blue shift. And that blue shift is from 8 to 4. Now I'm going to add it.
Okay. So we
Okay.
will-
The same thing is for something that's a drop down, right? So if I'm doing a shift report and I'm going, well, it's a drop down. So you don't want to hit the add first, because then you're going to add Gina. You want to select first, then add.
Okay.
You can take them off the same way. Okay. That's going to be system-wide. All right. Let's look at a very simple thing first. When you guys take attendance at groups, what state are y'all in?
Colorado.
Okay. So you'll check your state regs and your insurance needs. Here in Texas, we're required to have a sign-in sheet for every group so that we can prove that that client was there. That's a state regulation, but more importantly, insurance often asks treatment centers for that. That's the proof that that person was there. And so this attendance sign-in right here is a way that you can print a sign-off sheet.
I wonder if we'll be doing that.
And so you'll see the name is there and there's just a place for the signature, and I can just print that sheet out.
Okay. Oh.
And then you would, yeah, so I'll print that out. They'll get their physical signatures on it, and then I can turn that sheet into whoever's job it is to keep those sheets. And usually you just keep them in a binder, and, you know, it allows you to do whatever.
And then we can go back to it. Okay.
Now, often, so for residential, sometimes they don't require that you keep those because they live there. So I just want you to know that that's an option, is the sign-in sheet. There's also an attendant feature where you're selecting that they're there.
Okay.
But most of the time you need both the sheet and this part, because what a lot of places do is that the tech will print out the sign-in sheet and then turn it into somebody, maybe an admin or someone, and then that admin will go through and say, okay, this person was here, or maybe the billing person, okay, these people were there. You want to make sure you're only billing the people that were there.
What does it mean?
All right. So,
Programs are at satellite office. This program will be connected into Danco.
no, remember this is just the training EMR, and so for a lot of places they maybe have a main location and a satellite office.
Or they may have 20 locations and different levels of care within that certain location.
Okay, so larger.
You'll just have one location.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what that looks like. Now under here you see unit management. What unit management does is room assignment. And so you just pick the unit. I'm going to click yes here. And remember what we talked about, I can take somebody off very easily, or I can assign a client and I can say, okay, Piper needs to go in this room, in this bed, save. And then there's Piper. Okay, any questions on room assignment?
Mm-mm.
All right, so let's talk medications. There are two types of medications here. Medication administration is if you have a nurse or a medical professional administering medication, physically taking the medication out of the bottle, putting it in a cup, handing it over. Medication observation is if you have a tech or a non-medical individual who is just observing a client as that client gets their meds out and takes their meds.
Well, what's interesting is here, and I know it varies state to state, but we are QMAPs, so we're qualified medication administering personnel.
Great.
We're not, so we do administer medication as techs.
Great, so you'll use the administration link, not the observation link.
Right.
Great, so let's click on administration.
That works the same as California, kind of. That's where I come from in the treatment world. And y'all have KDAC out there, and there's KDAC in California, but here in Texas, it's LCDCs, and I think most other places. So anyway.
So I can toggle by program, but let's just, we've got two people. So what these two names are telling me is that these two people have medications they need to take. So when I click on one of them, There's Piper. It's going to show me their medication. Now, if you're in a position with the computer where the client can see the screen, then I'm going to click this button here just to hide those other client names.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's look at this. On your top right, you're going to see that if there's an allergy, that's going to show up big and red. Down here, it's going to tell you when that medication is due, what the medication is. If there's any purposes or instructions here, those will be there. So red is going to indicate that the time has already passed. Okay, so she should have taken that at 6. There's nothing we can do about that now. That should have been taken at 6. But this one right here is supposed to be taken at 1 o'clock. But what you guys are going to do is set your windows. And so maybe you have a 3-hour window or 1 hour window. So 1 hour before 1 o'clock or 1 hour after 1 o'clock, this medication may be administered. All right. Over on your actions, you have some options here. So let's start at the top. If the client refuses to take it, you just click client refused. If the medication's not available, let's say they ran out, you're waiting on a refill, or sorry, that's med not available. If the client's not available, you click client didn't come to med, or wouldn't get out of bed, or whatever. Hold medication would be like, let's say that this client went off to an outside appointment and they're going to get back in 2 hours, but it's okay for them to take their medication when they get back. That's when you want to hold the medication. Okay? So in order to administer this medication, I'm going to click that button. It's that simple. And now it's going to tell you that it's been given by me at this date, at this time. Down here, it's going to show up there. I can look at the information and see exactly who ordered it, when it was administered. If I made a mistake, I'm going to click on report error and fill out an error report. Okay, and it'll submit it to the supervisor and it'll show up as a notification. Any questions there?
How would this look different? We have clients who are taking tobacco cessation gum, and they have it numerous times during the day at their request. So
let me show you that then.
Okay.
So what you're looking at right now is medications that are basically they have to be taken when they're supposed to be taken. But if they have PRN medication, you're going to click on PRN up here at the top.
Okay.
And it's going to give a list of that. And I can click on them over here. Now, with the PRN medication, I do have the ability to click whether or not it's effective. I do have the ability to click whether or not it was tolerated.
Oh, good.
Tolerated just means like they didn't throw it up. They didn't pass out after they took it. It's physically tolerated. Now, these are both Joint Commission requirements. I'm not sure about CARF, but they are Joint Commission requirements. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Any medications not given will show up down here.
Okay.
Now, those are medication admin, PRN. If I want to just look at the order, so what are all the medications this client's taking? Well, there they are.
So if a client comes up and says, where is my, Zoloft? It should have been here by now. I can check orders to see the status.
Yep. You can also open it and go, well, that's only supposed to be taken at night. You'll be able to see the hours.
Okay.
And then we have vital signs here. So if you need to take vital signs, you can do that here.
How often do you do vital?
And so if you have where you take vitals every so often just because, but then there's also a lot of medications that'll say, take the vitals, and if the vitals say this, then give the medication.
Okay.
If you want to see discontinued orders, you can see here, right? Because sometimes it's, hey, where's my Abilify? And it's not there. You look over here, go, oh, well, your doctor discontinued that last week.
Okay.
Right? And then missed medication. So remember we missed that medication this morning?
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. So I can just check like, okay, I'm seeing that. And you'll notice that I cannot give, I'm clicking on this, I cannot give a medication that's in the past, in the future, or that has already been given.
Huh.
So it really cuts down on errors.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice because they can't come to one person and ask for their medication, their PRN medication, and turn around 20 minutes later, go to another staff member.
Yeah, we have
And-
heavy.
All right, and so up at the top here, you see this print button?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to give me a list of every person's medication for that day. And the reason you might want to do this is that if you have a system where, let's say that you in the morning get all the meds out and put them all in their individual cups, it's probably easier to look at one sheet than to have to open up each client.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Safe. It keeps it safe.
And so that's really the only thing tech-wise that you need to see.
Okay.
What do y'all think?
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it seems pretty
Very
easy
thorough.
and thorough. Yeah, yeah.
Now, I did try to type in mo.lightningstep.com and it says the site cannot be reached.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's there. So you have to do HTTPS :/mo.lightningstep.com.
Got it.
So it's what it's trying to do. It's trying to add www. It's not www. So that's why.
So HTTP :/
HTTPS
Yes.
:/mo.lightningstep.com. And you can do it from your phone, but again, Safari is, I use it on my phone, but it's best practice not to do it because,
I'm using Chrome.
correct. Yeah.
But
So it's the same thing as up here,
But when we're home,
but instead of EMR, do MO.
we're not.
not for, well, at least not for medication. Maybe for the shift notes we might.
Okay. Okay. I thought we were going to be able to start tomorrow morning with this, but no.
But I mean, not for medication because
Not for medications, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, for shift reports, yes,
I'm sorry. Okay.
but yeah, not for medications. But let us know. Go ahead.
No, I'm just ready to roll. I'm
Okay,
ahead.
perfect. Yeah, if I can get your nurse, if we can get your nurse and your doctor sooner, the sooner the better. So.
Yeah, we don't have control over that. but
Right, exactly. And I don't either. So, I'm working on it. So.
Thank you.
You got it. All right. Any other questions?
No, that was very thorough for me.
yeah, me too.
Okay, perfect. You got it. So I'll send so let me stop recording here. And